We gotta stop meeting like this.
Sure.
I got a plan, John.
You always got a plan, Dutch.
This is a good one.
The Red Dead Redemption series has two of the greatest protagonists in all of gaming, but it's not even just them. It seems every character is well written and has just as much importance as the rest. Hosea Matthews, Micah Bell, Charles Smith, Edgar Ross. Every character matters to the story and has their moment. But there is no character that I believe to be more important than Dutch van der Linde. Unlike Red Dead Redemption 2, where Dutch is pretty much the second main character, in Red Dead Redemption, Dutch is almost nowhere to be seen. Out of Red Dead's 57 missions, Dutch is present in 4 and only talks in 3. He isn't in the game much, but he towers above everything else. All we know about Dutch before meeting him in Red Dead 1 is how much of a crazy bastard he is, with the strange man even saying he killed a young pregnant woman in a brutal way.
Pretty girl. Until her eye was hanging out by a thread of tendon and her brain was plastered over a wall.
But then we see him in Red Dead 2 and he's one of the nicest characters in the camp. Sure, he'll shoot people and shit, but he's not ruthless. He'll always give Arthur the option to let people live. But occasionally, the mask will slip.
We need to move and keep moving.
We need money! You dumb fool! Money! Or we are dead! We are all dead!
And I think the first time we truly see this is in Blood Feuds Ancient and Modern. Because it's here Dutch commands the gang to kill the Braithwaites, and while it's kinda deserved because they kidnapped Jack, Dutch kills one of the Braithwaite's sons, even though he's injured and unarmed.
What about down?
That is literally a fucking war crime. And while this slightly rattles Arthur and Hosea, Dutch doesn't care. He doesn't even flinch at the gunshot. Or in the scene where he kills Bronte. Everyone is shocked at Dutch for drowning the man, and even John, who hates Bronte the most because he kidnapped his son, is shocked for feeding him to a couple of gators.
It ain't nice. I know it. But it is us or him. I figure it might as well be him.
Back in high school, my English teacher wanted us to revise and understand how to analyse a character, and she told us to break down a character from something we liked to a practice, and I picked Dutch, and one of my points about him was how much of a fucking hypocrite he is. Dutch is a man that completely hates society. He hates everything it stands for. He doesn't understand the concept of man's only love being greed and money, and spending so much money on useless shit. He just can't grasp the understanding of that. Except he must, because he is just like that. Like, Dutch hates Leviticus Cornwall because he basically represents all of capitalism and everything to do with civilization. But they are practically the same guy, down to how they dress. Their waistcoats, besides from the colour, are practically the same. They both wear white shirts down to the cuff, and their coats look almost identical. They both talk like what they say is law. They're both constantly telling people to make more money for them while they do nothing and reap all the rewards. And they even have a little army to go out and kill whoever they tell them to. And they both wear far more extravagant clothing than everyone else around them. Besides from Arthur, because obviously he can drip himself the fuck out, Dutch dresses in far more modern for the time and civilized. Everyone else is in rags or clothes that are falling apart, but he is always in something fancy as shit. Even in all the promotional material, everyone else is in scratty or casual clothing, while Dutch either wears something fancy or has his hair slicked back, implying he's spending camp funds on pomade. That bitch! One of my favourite cutscenes in the whole game is where Milton is telling the gang to leave Clemens Point.
This place ain't no such thing as civilized. It's man, so in love with greed, he has forgotten himself and found only appetites.
The whole point of this conversation is Dutch basically saying civilization is people so in love with money they abandon all other morals and human dignity just to accumulate as much money as they can. But the hypocrisy comes from the fact Dutch is exactly the same. Everything this man does is in search for as much money as possible. Even in a mission where you're not straight up robbing banks and trains, every mission with Dutch is him trying to gain money. In Country Pursuits, the whole point of the mission is to secure a boat to sneak up on Bronte's mansion so you can kill him and then rob a bank in his city. American Distillation, you go after moonshiners so you can put up the appearance of being deputies so you can trick the Braithwaites into the Greys into finding the lost fortune of gold. Everything Dutch does is in the pursuit of money. He literally has a chest hidden away in a cave in chapter 6 that he doesn't trust anyone else with. Something infamous with the rich and ultra wealthy, the people he claims to despise while literally acting as one.
White to D4, black to F5, white to G3, knight to F6, bishop to G2, black to G6, knight to F3. Get it all out, once and for all, Arthur.
What now?
We're back, and I'm sitting here, and I am contemplating the great journey of the sun and considering a famous chess move.
In the last mission of chapter 5, just before Dutch sends us on a mission to find a new campsite, we see him sitting by a chessboard, reciting a chess move known as the Dutch defense. The move was first created in the late 18th century in the Netherlands, and was mentioned in a book called I'm not even gonna fucking try. The whole point of the move is sacrificing your pieces in order to save the king. And if you can't already see the irony, this move is one Dutch will regularly pull out of his ass, most notably in the Red Dead 1 mission, The Truth Shall Set You Free. As soon as you storm the camp, you are only attacked by the natives, the people in Dutch's new group. You go through waves, hundreds of them, until you eventually reach Dutch. Dutch is sacrificing as many natives as he can so that he can get away and live while they all die. And you can kind of bring that back to Dutch being a hypocrite, since he's acting like a politician, sending out droves of men to die in wars for him before getting involved himself. And this isn't the only time Dutch has sacrificed people, and most notably the Native Americans, in order to save himself. In chapter 6, Dutch literally manipulates and uses the natives, influencing them to fight against the government and start a war. So the government will be too busy fighting the natives, so Dutch and the gang can slip right by, once more sacrificing others for the safety of himself. There's not a lot to say here because it's just kind of obvious Dutch is sacrificing everyone for himself, but it's still an important detail of his character.
I got a plan. This is a good one.
In both Red Dead Redemption games, there's a moment where Dutch is pinned against the edge of a cliff, either by John or the military. And just like Dutch, he begins to try and talk his way out of it. But what's strange is that in this moment, he recites the same monologue.
We can't always fight nature. Nature, Captain. John. We can't fight change. Fight change. You can't fight gravity. Gravity.
Dutch begins to tell both men pushing him towards the edge the things you can't fight in life. We can't fight nature, we can't fight change, and we can't fight gravity. Dutch has clearly selected these three for the most obvious reason. We'll talk about the first one, nature, in a minute, but let's start with the second one being change. Change is something Dutch has been fighting for a long time, constantly pushing against society and everything it stands for. And gravity, well, that's pretty obvious, he lost that fight.
My whole life, I tried to fight change.
Dutch has always fought for what he believed in. He believed in the freedom of man, fighting corruption, helping those who needed it. Dutch saw himself as Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving it to the poor. But what Dutch fails to see is he is in the minority. Rockstar deliberately set RDR2 in the 1890s because this was the death of the American frontier. The country was becoming far more controlled, and in 1899, when Red Dead Redemption 2 is set, the Republican Party was in power, and they've always fought for making your own money. People no longer want or really need Dutch to help them, and they saw Dutch's gang as nothing more than thieves, and as Arthur says,
we're thieves in a world that don't want us no more.
But Dutch has fought this. He fought against change. He tried to stop civilization, but he couldn't. He couldn't fight against change. So then why does he continue to fight? Why does he fight a losing battle that he himself knows he's losing?
Then give up, Dutch.
But I can't give up, neither. I can't fight my own nature.
When Dutch talked about fighting nature and not being able to defeat it, he didn't literally mean fighting against nature. He meant fighting against yourself. And like Dutch says, we can't fight against ourselves.
That's a paradox, John. You see?
This explains why Dutch won't give up. Even when he's backed against a cliff, he must keep fighting because it's who he is. As he said, it's all he's ever done. He started the gang in his 20s and he's died now in his 50s. So for 30 years, all he did was fight change. So if he didn't do that, who else would he be? This is what he means by it's a paradox. And that's why when he sees his time is over and he can no longer fight change, he kills himself.
Our time has passed, John.
Now I know the only compass that I need.
So at the end, you didn't have the guts to shoot him.
I could go on about Dutch van der Linde forever. I could talk about how he hates being criticized so much that he interrupts anyone who dares to.
We need more money. We've been on the run for months now, and I seen you killing folk in cold blood like you always told me not to. And I'm sorry, but I can't help but think that if we
There is country.
Dutch Van der Linde is by far my favorite video game character, and you know what? I think he's my favorite character of all time. Even in Red Dead Redemption 1, where he's only seen in 4 missions, he stands out so much. He's the only gang member John hunts down that you actually spend time with in the game, and he's absolutely incredible in each mission. Every time he's on screen, he's always got the power and truly anything can happen.
I'm pretty good at remembering faces.
Are you? Do you remember Hattie McCourt's face?
Who?
Hattie McCourt is never seen in Red Dead Redemption, but to me, she is one of the most important characters, because she begins to show everyone who Dutch really is. A monster.
You keep killing folk, Dutch.
Dutch says he only robs from the rich and gives to the poor and only fights against the tyrannical leaders and people who work with them. But Hattie McCourt was simply a young pregnant girl on a ferry, and this act begins to show a lot of the gang who Dutch really is. A lot who don't see it like Arthur don't judge Dutch for this because they don't know the situation, but from the reactions from people who did see it like John, they can't ever see Dutch the same way they did.
Blackwater was about surviving, John.
Not for that girl, it weren't.
And they begin to see him for who he truly is, a man who truly only cares for himself and will sacrifice anyone for himself.
I keep getting caught.
We all get caught eventually, John. I guess the trick is to decide by who.
On the pen, but words just sit like empty scribbles.